I'm Benedict Evans, and I'm an independent technology analyst.
What sets you apart as an analyst?
Well, I'm very clever. What makes me unusual, I think I sit between a bunch of different kinds of analysis. There are Wall Street analysts, there are people at Bain or BCG or McKinsey, and what I try and do is kind of translate between the technology and the business and the strategy and try and say, well, what is it that's kind of interesting and different and useful here?
Benedict, do you think we're living through weird times?
I think within technology, we're certainly kind of going through a shift in that for sort of 10 years or so, smartphones were the center of gravity and everything was being remade around them. And now we have a wave around AI, particularly around large language models, which most people in tech feel like this is the thing for the next 10 or 15 years.
What is AI?
There's an old joke from the 70s from a guy called Larry Tesler who said AI is whatever doesn't work yet. Because once it works, people say, well, that's not AI, that's just software. AI is all the stuff that we can't do yet that's vaguely in the direction of what people can do. And as soon as it works, people say, well, that's not AI anymore, that's just image recognition. Then you have the term AGI, artificial general intelligence. We don't think that a washing machine is intelligent, even though it's better than us at doing laundry. Certainly it's not intelligent in the way that like a person is, or a dog, or a cat, or a monkey, or a dolphin, or an octopus, are all kind of intelligent on some spectrum. And so AGI is to say, no, something that has a sort of generalized intelligence that all of those kinds of creatures, including us, have, that a washing machine doesn't have.
I guess what feels weird about some of the kind of consumer interfacing with AI right now is that it feels like someone is talking with us. It seems like we have much higher expectations for the accuracy of information from an AI chatbot than we do from typing something into a search engine.
When you use Google, generally it doesn't give you an answer, it gives you 10 blue links and it says the answer might be one of these. Whereas when you use a chatbot and it gives you 3 paragraphs of text, it doesn't say, here are 10 possible answers, it says, here is the one answer. These systems are matching a pattern. And so if you go to ChatGPT and you ask it a question, that looks like what you're doing, but what you're actually doing is saying, what kind of things in the training data would seem like a good answer to this question? And so the output from the model might or might not be right, but it will be roughly right. And it will then be turned into perfect prose. The internet was kind of remade around search, and then it was remade around social. And it does seem quite likely that the internet will be kind of remade around generative AI. And no one quite knows what that's going to look like.
Is there any tech that weirds you out?
There are always things that puzzle me. Being puzzled is always kind of interesting because, you know, it's like the Simpsons joke, you know, old man waving at clouds. You know, are the young people wrong, or am I wrong? No, it's the young people, they're all wrong. One of the fundamental shifts we've had is that computers and software and the internet was always kind of cool and exciting and interesting, but it was not actually part of most people's lives. When the consumer internet really gets going in the mid-90s, there were maybe 20 or 30 million consumer PCs on the entire planet. Today, something over 5 billion people have a smartphone. My favorite statistic is that now over half of all new relationships in the USA start online. And so this stuff has gone from being kind of cool, but basically peripheral to most people's lives, to being just kind of a central part of how we all live.
What kind of innovation do you hope to see before you die?
Before I die, I don't know.
Anything you're holding out for?
We're in this kind of period of continuous acceleration, continuous change. I remember talking to my great aunt who died aged kind of 97 and talking about how completely the world had been changed like 3 or 4 times in her life. There's a great quote from, I think from Agatha Christie, where she said growing up, I don't know, in the early 20th century, in a middle-class family, she couldn't imagine being so poor that they didn't have servants. And she couldn't imagine being so rich that they had a car.
Wow.
My grandfather was a science fiction writer. He wrote a story in the late 40s that predicted the internet and AI agents answering questions. And
That's awesome.
Meanwhile, he couldn't understand why my mother wanted to work. And he wrote a story about a planet that gets forgotten. And the reason it's forgotten is that the Interstellar Terraforming Agency, so we have faster than light travel and terraforming, moved office from one planet to another, and the punch card that recorded that planet got lost. So like we tend to like predict the wrong things on the wrong axis and not realize what the actual changes are going to be. We still don't have interstellar travel, but like the idea that you wouldn't work, like, no.
What's a post-phone world look like?
At the moment, we have a lot of interest in VR and AR. I don't think many people believe that that would happen with something that looks like ski goggles, no matter how light and how good they get. It's a lot easier to imagine that happening with something that looks like the glasses we're wearing now. The same thing with contact lenses. We know there's no law of physics against, some sort of contact lens-based display, but we don't really know when that's going to be practical. We're not close to something that could replace a small piece of glass in your pocket that can be absolutely anything. It's not that there's this whole sort of thesis that we're spending too much time looking at these things, and you think, okay, here I have this device that brings me all the world's knowledge and information and entertainment and lets me talk to anybody in the world, and you're complaining that I should be doing what instead?